Well, we have this nice, like this heroic metropolitan music. We are on the threshold of adventure. We've spent all week to come to this point together, right? We've created a party. We've created villains. Well, we've created a villain, and then we've made an antagonist out of another NPC from the prior campaign. We've created more NPCs, and we've just studied up on the location that we want our story to feature. It is time now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages, to make a Ravnica campaign outline. And you know what? Just like we did with Lone Survivor and all of the other campaigns and other content that we make here on this channel, it's going to be available to you. So around Monday, you should be able to download this for your own consideration. You should be able to access it. And if you want to run whatever we're going to make or whatever we've made before, have at it. Have fun. You have an outline, and all you have to do as a DM is step up and put a little meat on the bones, and there you go. You have a campaign that's all but ready for you. You know, tweak it however you'd like, and if you ever have questions, you know you can come to the workshop and ask them. Hey Daly, so did someone scoop up Niv Mizzet? And if so, will another be available? I still have Niv. Oh, cattle. Oh my. Unfortunately, we lost some cattle in our battle on Tuesday. So it was not quite the other way around, but still cattle. Welcome, and I'm thank you. I thank you for the follow. But Daily, no, Niv Mizzet is still up for grabs. And now we have background sound, because I'm a professional. Yeah, it was the background music. Yeah. But no, that big old Dargon is right over my shoulder here. All right, before we begin our new campaign, let's quickly go over what we did for our first one. So if you recall, we made 2 PCs out of the Races of Ravnica Unearthed Arcana. And they're actually both evil, and so we made them anti-heroes that were guildless, and they patrolled their city block kind of doing a protection racket, which they followed through on, but obviously it's not moral. But what was keeping them from truly a life of crime was a priest inside of the Orzhov Syndicate there in town that was, teaching them to actually, like, help other people. Because we actually had someone who was good, good-natured and believed in the message and wanted to really help people. Now, it eventually got her killed and turned into a ghost as an indentured spirit. But such is what happens. So when we come over here, if you have your Dungeon Master's guides, children, this is D&D school. You may open them to Chapter 3, Creating Adventures, on page 71. There we go. The music was kind of intense there. You think the Epic Starter Pack is worth it, or should I just order minis based on what characters we end up playing as? The Epic Starter Pack, if you saw the characters, if that fits who's playing, otherwise, if you want to piecemeal something together, you're welcome to do so, Cap. If you can let me know who's playing, I can make recommendations. Whether it is a starter pack of minis, or You know, if you're looking to do a larger order, like a bunch of goblins and orcs and whatever, you know, we can work PC figures into it and not just monsters or NPC style figures. Books? No one said we needed books. You need books every time we do this, Diadems. Okay. Just let me know what you want, Cap, and I'll make sure to arrange it. And remember, for all of you who do make big purchases of, you know, you adopt a bunch of orphans on the side. You know, if you want like 10 goblins and a hobgoblin to lead them, you know, or if you're looking for like an undead swarm or whatever. We don't have to do that on stream. We can do that, you know, while I'm away so I can get it together. And many times I'll throw in a couple extra figures as a thank you for your business, and something that hopefully is appropriate and will be a lot of fun for you. Luke stole your books. Oh, well, you better ask for them back, but be polite about it. Alright, so with our original adventure, we use the process that you find in the DMG for creating one. Look, if you are a newcomer to Dungeons and Dragons or to storytelling in general, you don't have to be an expert writer. Right? A lot of this material is here for you that will hold your hand and take you through a process. Right? As we made this campaign, we summarized it in one sentence, and that's an awesome way to set a goal or a beacon or a lighthouse on a distant horizon for you as a DM. What's the one thing you want to get done during this campaign? In this case, it was to pay off or otherwise have the eviction of the Undercity block stopped. And, you know, does it come to murder for that? It didn't necessarily have to. The whole point was to find a way to stop the merciless eviction. You can look up that magic card, as that's what was going to happen. The merciless eviction of the patrol block that our two anti-heroes were running this protection racket in. And they either had to pay off the debt or have it stopped through some legal means, which ended up being trying to find some dirt on the people doing this to have the Azorius step in and provide an injunction against the Orzhov. Do you have to be really polite? So Daily, if I have that one kind of stereotypical teacher where I pick on the good kids and I let the bad kids be bad, right? It's kind of like disciplining, telling your kid for bringing home a B and is otherwise an A student that you don't get dinner and you have to go to bed. But when your F student ended up managing to just eke by with a D, you take him out to Benihana or something for like a big $100 dinner. We have to keep our irrational biases going here. So as we went through, we were doing an event-based adventure. All right, you could do a location-based one, and there's guides and and also we reference this for a couple other aspects. But look, you want to build an adventure? Crack open your DMG. Here, we're on page 75. Start with your villain. Determine the villain's actions. Determine the party's goals. Who are going to be the important NPCs? How would the villain react if the party accomplished the goals that were set forth? What are some key locations? Choose an introduction and a climax to your adventure and plan some encounters, right? And that's what we have here. Using content we generated from our own noggin, based on our randomly rolled characters and other aspects, and our random NPCs and villains, we were able to fill in and go through this guide. And look, it doesn't take a lot of time. Look, a sentence, 2 sentences in some cases. And this exercise is very important. Because if you, as the Dungeon Master, are familiar with what you want to accomplish and where the action is going to be taking place, you are going to be far more comfortable ad-libbing, modifying plans on the fly, generating content that will get players from point A to point B. Because you're not going to have to sit there and go, oh, well, I didn't think of that. I don't know. You know, here we are in Ravnica, so I guess Ravnica has horses and carts. So, you know, and we spend so much time trying to figure out this menial stuff, which is why I wanted to explore the setting before we got to this point, right? Fenris Wolfborn. I'm making a class with a lot of inspiration from the Rune Lord from Warhammer. Got any tips to make it balanced? Yes, Fenris. The first is put down all your ideas on paper, and even if it is an absolutely broken monstrosity that will just roll over anything that is remotely close to its level, get your ideas out on paper first. Put it all out there, even if it seems broken, okay? Because then once you have that in front of you as an electronic document, or if you took the time to write it out, it will be so much easier to then take like the player's handbook, open it up, and compare side by side. And say, okay, I want my new class to be kind of like a fighter, but different. So let me look at what the fighter offers. And maybe I'll use the fighter as a chassis, but I will rework some other instances about it. And then you have your limitless opportunity inspiration fighter here. And you can pair it back based on the milestones that an already established class and or subclass have. But don't be afraid to dream big on paper first. Even if you know that something is just going to be broken. Because it'll really help you decide what's important. Like if it has too many abilities and I have to cut one back, what's the one I want to cut back because I've explored it all. Hey King, it's been a while. I've had 8,000 DMs who all set up their scenario, and when I go I do X, they crumple and spend 20 minutes figuring out how it changes. Even if it's the most obvious thing, i.e. an old lady's purse was snatched. I tackle the purse snatcher. Yeah, King sighting. A rare King Von Allay has appeared. So if you're familiar at least with what's the one thing you want to have happen, and you're familiar with the setting, it's going to allow you a lot more freedom to be versatile when your PCs do something that you didn't expect. It's been a busy November, and now November is dead. That's true. December saw to its demise. I had a similar question about making a new sub-race, but that was really good advice. Well, Fenris, you're very welcome. Look, this is a game of storytelling and imagination. If you want to make this race, put it out there, okay? Even if it seems really oddball and fantastic, and you're like, oh, but I want it to shape change like druids, but not be limited. And I also want them to have the strength of a large character, and they should have the night vision of a drow, and all of a sudden, we're finding ourselves in territory where I don't remember giving them +2 to strength, con, dex, and wisdom. Huh? How did that happen? Which ones are more important to me? But you've been able to dream on paper, and you have your concept out there, and then you can take an official source and compare the two, so that you can bring your creation more into a realm of feasibility with what has already been published. And make sure you're using what has been officially published, as Unearthed Arcana is playtest material. So it's technically material Wizards puts out there and says, you know what? Compare this playtest material we put out with actual printed material, and let us know if anything weird happens. But yeah, Fenris, look, we're a workshop. We're a good, thoughtful community. We are here to help answer those questions, and I'm glad we've been able to do so with you. If you have more, I mean, we can answer it here. But you are always welcome to pop over to our workshop on our Discord. So if you have particular questions on how to build something, you're looking for advice, you are welcome to come by and say hi and ask questions in our mentor network. Is there such a class as a flame sword mage? Arguably a hexblade. Really, you know, any class that can cast green flame blade. Bards can cast Valor, College of Valor bards can cast spells through their sword. So, I mean, there's not one called Flame Sword Mage, but there are ways you can make that as a concept that already exists, Rhodey. All right, so, you know, we went through, we had our villains. We did make some allies, even if they weren't fully fleshed out, because really you only need to flesh out a couple NPCs, like the regular NPCs. Others, you know, even if they're just a one-trick pony, you know, welcome to Corneria, I like swords. Welcome to Corneria, I like swords. Welcome to Corneria, I like swords. You know, they're NPCs that exist, but at least you know that what they're there and that they're doing something in particular here. So oh, Fenris, thank you very much for that follow. So we established all this already with our campaign workshop. We then went, you know, so who's our patron? What are some location details that we already, like, we're following the prompts, but we already had the answers, but we're organizing it, right? We thought big, just like I was telling Fenris here. We thought big, and now let's put it through the test. Not that you have to run your adventure like how the DMG tells you, but it's a good prompt, or it's a good guide for you. Then we went into our introduction, which we rolled randomly, because... Dun, 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 adventure introduction, and what will happen during the climax. After we put all of this information down on paper, we then were able to sit back, and here's an example outline of a series of events that would take us through a story. Now, you can fill in so many other details beyond here, but these are things that will happen that will convey what was going to occur. And by the way, all of this is on our past content on our Discord. So you can watch the videos of us making these different parts of the campaign, including the characters. You can download the characters, and you can download the villains and everything else that we made as well. You don't have to be a subscriber. I sincerely appreciate all of you who subscribe, who go out of your way to do that. I know that money competes with food, gas, bills, and other entertainment. But this is provided because there are those of you who do support the channel that, you know, allow me to not have to monetize a lot of this, you know, a lot of this content. Well, you know, Rhodey, you could just have a magic item that is on fire as well. Heck, there's even like a lightsaber that technically exists. So, our heroes get word of eviction notices. They want to go to the Azorius to get an injunction against it. They're told that they need proof of illegal activities if an injunction is going to occur. Now, of course, they can always just pay off the debt, too, in some other way if they want to stop it. Find out that the villains funded the WED-SAT boilers that are damaging the area. And so, aha, we might be onto something. There might be illegal activity. They infiltrate the WED-SAT dungeon. It was a boiler works that we made. They confront a mad scientist, which is sort of like the sub-boss that we developed. Confront a mad scientist leader and learn a clue about the pontiff. You know, the one who's actually, like, signing this this merciless eviction order. Have to follow up on the clue through investigation. Adventure and piece clues together, including one from the Wojek here, the Boros paladin, who's kind of like their Inspector Zenigata to the Lupin crew, right? He doesn't like the fact they're anti-heroes. He doesn't like that they shake people down and run a protection racket, but they don't hurt people. They don't murder people. So, and also he used to be in the Rakdos cult, right? But he joined the Boros Legion to kind of run a scared straight program. He doesn't want people to fall into those ways. So he sees these two ladies as, you know, possible redemption cases. With all of this, they confront the Pontiff and learn the true nature of things. That he is actually masquerading as the Pontiff, as the Orzhov Pontiff, but he's really a member of the Rakdos cult who is here to sow dissent by impugning the Orzhovs, by doing such merciless things and upsetting people, because then he would just peace out of there, and suddenly the Orzhovs would be gone, and the Rakdos might be able to move in more easily, or do something else, or just for the heck of it. Moral decision about what to do with the replacement figure. You know, who would step up in this case? There's going to be a power vacuum. Proof goes back to the Azorius to get an injunction, the eviction ceases, and there's been a Dimir facilitator this whole time who slinks off to plant something else anew. Because you know who put the idea in the Rakdos head to put up the Orzhov as being the fall people? A Dimir agent. So we had a triple crosser, kind of. Especially because the Dimir was providing information, weapons, and armor, and all this other stuff to our criminal anti-heroes. Coffee Cat is lurking. You are welcome to do so, sir. So, bada boom, we just had an adventure made, right? Let's do the same thing here with what we have currently. Here's our outline that we can fill in. Again, nice and simple, and most of this is just gonna take like a sentence. Maybe 2 sentences each to fill in what's gonna occur. Don't let this overwhelm you, and don't get caught in the details. Let the details flow through you as the DM. Become comfortable with what you're running. Keep a simple goal ahead of you, and just follow through towards that goal. All right, our villain. A Golgari Circle of Spores cult leader who is actually a lich warlock who answers to the long forgotten Nephilim of Ravnica. Great old ones. His body is decaying as per guild tradition. So he is looking for a new one, believing that he is the exception to the rule of passing on in life, due to his unique bond with his patron or patrons. The reason why he's a villain, we rolled him as a rival to 2 of our 3 new PCs, where a lich was trying to turn someone else into a lich. And so why he's a rival is we determined, okay, so he was poking and prodding them. Because you know what? Maybe he wants to make either of them his next host. So they're turned into a lich because they turn into him. You know, so he's promising them lichdom. Liches exist in the Golgari. The Golgari are led by a lich. But he wasn't entirely truthful. Right? So as this influencer in the guild is, you know, sending them on missions and whatnot, it's to see who has the strongest body or the keenest mind or whatnot. that he could then take over, because his own original body is rotting because of just how the Golgari operate. You can be undead, but you can't be undead forever. As for using a sword for a spellcasting focus, if you're looking for just a purely mechanical thing, I think in Xanathar's guide there's that common magic item that's a gem of some kind that you can, I think, like, put into a weapon, like a staff or a dagger or a, you know, something else like that. And you can then use your weapon as an implement. Alright, determine the villain's actions. Once you have a villain, it's time to determine what steps the villain takes to achieve its goals. Pardon me. Create a timeline showing what the villain does and when, assuming no interference from the adventurers. Building on the previous example, you might decide your vampire villain murders several knights. By slipping past locked doors in gaseous form, the vampire is able to make the deaths appear natural at first, but it soon becomes clear that a depraved killer is behind the murders. If you need additional inspiration, consider a few different options for how the villain's actions would unfold over the course of the adventure. So you know what? Let's roll it, right? Let's roll a d6. 1. A big event occurs. And you know what? I think we are going to determine what that big event is with our framing event for the framing event for setting up our story here. So something big is going to happen, and this is going to stir up a lot of people's attentions. And it won't be clear that our villain is behind it at first. Especially because our villain is masquerading as a Circle of Spores druid, when in fact he's at least partially a great old one warlock. You can use the event-based goals table to set the party's goal. A goal can also suggest ways in which the adventurers become caught up in the villain's plans and what exactly they must do to foil those plans. Let's roll a d20. 16. Win a tournament. What did I just say about the villain trying to groom at least 2 of the PCs in the Golgari clan itself in order to become a good host for his next incarnation or such? This could be a good way of doing it. This can also fit very well into whatever our framing event is going to be. And especially because our villain, if you go back and watch our villain creation stream, I have the... Our villain is here. Villain is weakened, by the way, in the presence of a particular artifact. So perhaps a goal would eventually be to get this artifact in order to contain or put down this lich, and that could very well be a phylactery. The lich's phylactery. So even though we didn't know it at the time, we were writing the content we're using now. Because we're familiar with it, you know, we took our time, you know, just a little bit. Every night we put in a couple hours of creative work. And honestly, a lot of that was just talking back and forth. If you sat down and pounded this out, you could get this done in an evening or two. Lich's weakness. Alright, now let's consider our NPCs. Who's important? Well, we have two that are in addition. We have two that are that we made. Why am I getting notifications? Go away. All right. It's kind of like when it wants us to update. Windows would like to update. Yes. Yes. No. Maybe later. And those are your options. 2 yeses that are right now, or a no, which means yes but later, without your consent. So our allies are our Orzhov Ghost, our Boros. Well, we kind of framing him more as a villain, or at least as an antagonist, I should say, and maybe a foil. Our Orzhov Ghost, our Azorius Homunculus, and our Golgari Medusa that we made. Which we have write-ups for each of them. So for what we're doing here, if you weren't around for it, just trust me, they have they have a whole section describing them, right? Let's go back to our NPCs. Here's our Orzhov NPC that we randomly generated. Here's our Minotaur, who is going to be more of an antagonist. Then we come back down here. Here we have Gammy Darkleer, who is our Medusa. And then we made our Homunculus as well over the course of this week. Ah, there we go, Daily. That's what I thought it was. Thank you. And one of these might end up even being the adventure patron. In other words, who's going to send us on this adventure? Well, as this is the new story, and if we wanted to feature the NPCs as more prominent and, go-to, we might end up just moving our Orzhov Ghost to be the patron. Especially because she knows not only our 2 original characters, but she has contact with one of the Golgari. And because it's a legal concern, she could have drawn in the Azorius Minotaur that we made. Meaning then that the other Golgari that we randomly made came along, especially because there's this forced rivalry between the 2 of them in order for some sort of a reward. Your eternal reward. So you see how this all works out, and these ideas are just flowing comfortably because we spent a little bit of time investigating the characters, and everything has grown one step at a time and very organically. Now, for things like the villain's reactions, unless we list out the actions that are going to occur, I mean, we could presume a couple things here, right? So if there's some kind of a big event that we'll have to, let's roll up what we want it to be. That way we'll get some answers here. Here's our framing events. I'm going to roll a percentile and find out what we get. 28. A commemoration of a past tragedy. Alright, so during the commemoration, our villain is going to strike, and something will happen. An artifact might go missing, or things along those lines. Or it'll be a chance to start maybe testing people to see if they're strong enough to be his next vessel. So our characters maybe will all be there in some form or fashion. Some might be working or participating. So the villain's reactions to winning, or I guess to villain's reactions to PC's involvement in the commemoration will be to notice them and begin observing, including testing them. A villain reaction to winning the tournament will draw the ire of the villain and perhaps have him make a mistake which will put the PCs on the path to determining who is behind the actions. When the PCs discover that spore druids aren't really responsible, as they are a cult under a Gulock, the villain, there will be a twist, and all attention will fall into silencing or otherwise stopping the PCs. Right, these are just some basic considerations. What are some things that we know we want to have happen? So generally, what would the villain be? How would the villain be responding to these? Where does 5e come in the grand scheme of D&D? Because I just found a sword mage class in 5e, whatever that is. I don't know if I understand your question, Rhodey. Swifty says, can to me before Monday to build him with all the right specs. So Swifty Healers, which core rulebooks do you have? Do you have the player's handbook? If you're seeking input on a build or the like, Rhodey, you could put it in the workshop. Okay, I mean, so Swifty, I mean, all you're doing, if you want to build your concept, is just make a level 1 gnome wild magic sorcerer. And then level up that character to whichever level you'd like him or her to be. So if you go through the character creation process that's in your player's handbook, just make a level 1 character, and after that, add on what you see the character gets at each additional level. I mean, if you need help beyond that, you know, we can work with you in the workshop. Well, Swifty, if you want him to be a gnome, I sent that over to you in our, because you see here, Swifty, I tagged you where it says roles and reference. So gnomes, here's height and weight for gnomes. So just use that. All right, let's detail key locations. Well, how detailed does it have to be? It doesn't have to be terribly detailed, right? We know that the adventure will take place in District 10, Precincts 2, 3, and 6. Primarily 6. And from here, I mean, for anything else, we can see, we can just put reference Guildmaster's guide for specific details. Right, what we're doing here as a dungeon master is to make a reference sheet for us. Now, if you want to pull information from here and put it over, well, over here, my finger disappears before I can touch the document. You can do so. But we just went over that, so that's why I also want to do the setting exploration right before we get into the campaign creation. We made the outline for the prison/dungeon that the characters will have to escape from in another document. All right, now what is the introduction to our campaign going to be? Let's roll a d12. 8. An NPC the characters care about needs them to go to the adventure location. Nice and easy. And you know what? You could have thought of this yourself. It's still a good idea whether you did or not. By leaving it open to randomness, though, we're exercising our minds to make these connections in order to strengthen the bonds that we've been creating amongst the characters. So, introduction, 8, an NPC the characters care about needs them to go to the adventure location. And because we set up our NPCs in an organic fashion, there are NPCs that can influence all, or at least most, of the PCs. And any ones that aren't directly moved by this other NPC are going to follow along because of, well, they're following along. The climax of our adventure. What is going to happen? What could be the big reveal? What will be the big combat or whatnot? Let's roll another d12. 9. The dungeon begins to collapse while the adventurers face the main villain, who attempts to escape from the chaos. Well, we now know that this dungeon is going to come in at the end of this adventure we're plotting. And that works very well as also because as we randomly rolled it, this prison was set up by a lich. And maybe this lich isn't very active anymore, and maybe was sealed up in the prison or something. And now we have this warden lich who is defending. You know, maybe it's like a, I don't know how to describe it, like a natural lich, kind of just preserved through, I don't know, not necessarily undeath, but maybe, I don't know how to describe it, is supernaturally preserved, but more on the side of, you know, plants and druids and such, instead of just arcane undeath like a lich could be. And so now we have, you know, these forces that find each other out, and maybe the villain even is willing to let the PCs go if this is the climax, and say, why would I want your bodies? Look, I can be alive again, and I can not die. And so then the shift goes over to this other lich that established this prison in which they were thrown into. Or, I don't know, they had to do a break into prison in order to find out what was going on. Now, when we plan our encounters, this can be, you know, all of the encounters that you plot out, every fight, every like major social situation, a skill challenge, you can go through this process then multiple times. But something that we can do while we are planning, maybe our big showdown, right? Maybe this is all in planning for our dungeon. As well, some kind of a complication is going to occur. A moral quandary is going to be raised. Oh, somewhere, you know, in our adventure. I think we rolled 11. I clicked out of it, sorry. There we go. Yes, 11. 11 is an honor quandary. A character is forced to choose between victory and a personal oath or code of honor. A paladin who has sworn the oath of virtue might realize that the clearest path to success lies in deceit and subterfuge. A loyal cleric might be tempted to disobey the orders of his or her faith. If you present this quandary, be sure to provide an opportunity for a character to atone for violating his or her oath. So, over the course of this story, there needs to be an honor quandary. And this can come up among everyone here. Honestly, we have an evil party. We have 2 neutral evil characters, 2 lawful evil characters, and a true neutral character, in sort of in between, if you want to call it that. We have 2 clerics. We have a warlock, interestingly enough. That can cause an honor quandary about breaking one's vows or their pact. Then we have sorcerer barbarian that was the multi-class, and a bard. Our multi-class and bard also could face an honor quandary about the Golgari. Especially because they know that they would have to be taking down a person of high leadership inside their own guild. At least as this person is pretending to be the Golgari. It could secretly be of someone else, or guildless and just masquerading. Our lawful evil Azorius policeman here, like our Drudge Dread Minotaur, could have an honor quandary as well. Over the course of the story, let's have a twist of some kind. And that twist is number 5. The adventurers have received false or extraneous information. So that'll be good for, that'll be good for a milestone exploration, right? And what's best too is they actually have an info broker who's an ally of theirs, and so they may have received it, and this can either strain the relationship with the info broker, or show that, well, the info broker thought it was good info. So who's tricking or who's baiting the info broker? This seems to be going deeper and affecting a lot of people. Especially influential people. What a twist. And lastly, sorry, my contacts are kind of dry right now. We can throw in a side quest with some kind of an objective to it that can facilitate the story along the way in some capacity. You know, it could be a dungeon, it could be, well, it'll be something on a D8. 3. Receive, information from an NPC in the area. So there's our side quest. You know, we have to go to the tournament, or we have to train for the tournament in order to win it because of the prize that's gonna you know, save what we need to save. And during the training, they realize you have to go to the next precinct and speak with this Azorius Homunculus. But we're in the middle of training. You have to go and get this information somehow, make it quick or whatever. And so you have this side quest. And along the way, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll roll a 7-sided die. 2. Protect an NPC or object. The characters must act as bodyguards or protect some object in their custody. As a complication, the NPC under the party's protection might be cursed, diseased, prone to panic attacks, too young or old to fight, or apt to risk the lives of the adventurers through dubious decisions. You know how this works really well? Again, you would have had to have been here for the creation of this. The Homunculus was actually created by the villain and ended up kind of going rogue after he was somewhat freed by the Medusa character because she gave him a ring, though he went on to be a functionary in the Azorius Senate. But because this sort of cowardly Homunculus knows the secret of our villain, as we generated our villain, actually as we generated the NPC is a big villain out there. So he would want to only tell us this information if he could meet. We meet this NPC, and the NPC says, now I need you to escort me so I can make it safely. If I die, I don't have your information. And you escort the Homunculus somewhere because the big bad evil guy is going to want to try and silence this thing, especially as his plans are coming to a head. So, hey, if any of you were here for this construction process, do you see how this is all getting pulled together so neatly? Campaign goal. Stop the lich from terrorizing the district in pursuit of illegal unlife. Nice one-sentence summary. Maybe people have been also going missing. Again, he's trying to find bodies, but he's in the Golgari, or he's in the Golgari. So he just happens to have a compost pile. Oopsie, the mold must have eaten his face. Or because they do raise animals and grow farms. Oopsie. Oh, this poor person fell into the pig pen. Oh well, they even eat the teeth, wouldn't you know? Rody, I'll take a look here real quick at what you had posted. Oh, Daly, thank you for addressing Rody on this. You know, also, Rody, paladins are sword mages in their own right as well. I mean, this is saying literally sword mage, but an Eldritch Knight can do the same thing. Even an arcane trickster. Oh, heck, you guys are already on top of this. Thank you. Yeah, Fluffy and Lethality got in on it, too. Alright, now that we have this information, let's put it all together and see what we have, huh? What would be a good outline for, you know, an adventure that might take a couple levels, right? If our first one took us, I don't know, let's say like 3 to 10. You know, what would take us then from 11 to, you know, maybe we'll stop just shy of epic. Like 11 to 16, right? So here's our proposed outline of campaign events. Orzhov Ghost calls original PCs and sends them to the Golgari on suspicion of a stolen item. PCs meet the two Golgari let's see. Who know of a great item of importance to their guild. So says the Lich. Which must be obtained from the upcoming tournament. Commemorating the let's see, in the book it said we're 76 years past the reformation of the guild pact. Agree to help and end up getting caught up in an undead incursion at the tournament involving the Azorius PC. Oh. As they abscond with the artifact in the heat of battle. There we go. Villain follows them to try and obtain the object. Meanwhile, the Homunculus summons them to give them information, since the villain's plans are already being enacted, which affect it. escort mission. Fight. NPC flees. Party is captured by Boros antagonist. Rival to Minotaur PC. Party is rescued by the Golgari Medusa as she shares bonds with them and can subtly put them on the path to discovering what is happening with the so-called leader of the spores. She sends them on an info gathering quest. Maybe that's not revealed yet. What is happening to the precinct? The lich calls for them and asks them for information, all while sizing up not just their knowledge, but their capabilities in case it comes to a fight. Swifty says, Matt, if I print out a pic of Dungeon Master, will that help a new DM that running a campaign with that my character is and how it will look? You could print out a picture. I mean, it's a cartoon. It's meant to be visually, it's meant to present that. But honestly, Swifty, you could just write a little description if you want off of a picture. Or you could offer a picture and a written description as well. You know, if you just describe this character as a balding gnome, as a balding gnome whose remaining hair is stark white and goes to about his shoulders, and often wears a mischievous smile, and wears red robes that sort of match the blush of his cheeks. You've done a very good job of describing the character with words. You don't even need a picture. Hey, Rin, welcome. Rin, I hope you had a good vampire session on the Thanksgiving weekend. I was out of town, so I didn't get a chance to stop in and say hi and listen to what was going on. But it's great to see you again, Rin. Oh, that's true. That is very true, sir. I hope it was successful for your store, though. Let's see. Villain obtains the item from the group that was needed. Then to get rid of them, sends them sets them up to get arrested and removed from the precinct by going to a Celestia prison. Boros Minotaur arrests them in the setup. Meanwhile, the villain learns the homunculus it needs has been taken in too. Villain must travel to the prison now to obtain it, causing havoc in a prison riot with undead and others. A pattern not unlike that of the ceremony. Aha, we're bringing stuff together. The natural lich sealed in the prison awakens as it is crumbling from the branches of the great tree holding it, and fights with the villain, fending it off, but revealing the villain's nature and goals. The party must return to their home precinct in order to stop the not druid Warlock from completing the ritual after nabbing the homunculus during the prison break. Boros Minotaur helps them after learning what has been happening. Medusa is met and helps them with some more information regarding what is happening, though she wishes to rise in influence after the lich is removed, so she is cautious about overplaying herself. Final fight in the Undercity with the lich, Warlock cultists, and undead. So we had some wrong, we're incorporating everything. We have some wrong information. We have the NPC. We have, I think we have most everything in here. The only thing I think we're missing still is, the moral conundrum. The honor quandary. Who's going to get challenged here? Each of the PCs could be tempted to take the place of the villain. By right of Golgari, custom, and law. Putting them in a tempting place as well. Let alone deciding whether or not to summon the Nephilim back to Ravnica to back up that power and be all but contested, even beyond the swarm. There we go. I think we have a really decent outline. It involves all of our NPCs. It involves all of our villains. We have chases. We have opportunities for chases, dungeon crawling, fights, and skill challenges. We travel to 3 different precincts while maintaining our original one as our home base. We bring everyone together who each has a finger in the pie of concern about what's happening. And plenty of room for personal growth, even if they don't accept that twist at the end. Because part of this moral conundrum can also be, do they want to nominate or instill that Medusa in place of the villain that fell? If she wanted to take that place. We have our moral gray area. We have we have the twist. We have the NPC escort mission. Skirmishes about testing them. There's a tournament again that we can make that could be a challenge, a gladiatorial combat, a skill challenge. We come up with some homebrew rules for whatever. When the PCs and if you want to drop in something like Jace Bellerin, if you want a headliner who will show up on the sidelines, you could even say he's off in the distance giving a speech during this great anniversary of the Guild Pact. Meanwhile, what's happening on the ground is happening on the ground with your players, so you can name drop without having the entirety of the mission or the campaign shift over to Jace. We honor our old NPCs and our new ones. We have our big event, we have our tournament, and we have a compelling villain who doesn't see himself as a villain. He's, I guess we didn't say if it was a he or a she. But our villain is contemplating everything. Our villain feels that, if defeated, the gateway to the Nephilim will open. You shouldn't kill me. If anything, you should put me in prison. But if you put this person in prison, what's going to hold him? So again, another moral conundrum. What do we do with this lich? Do we execute the lich? So he wants to continue to live on, but that violates Golgari Edict about the circle of life. And also stealing people to test their bodies to be a host. And, sending up undead through the sewers to cause distractions and all that. Plus, he or she is also impugning the circle of spores druids who otherwise serve the Golgari faithfully. by actually running a Warlock cult that is, you know, kind of carrying themselves as if they were druids. Or, I don't know, they're all, like, multi-class with, like, I don't know, 2-3 levels of druid in addition to Warlock. Just enough to get by, right? Oh, you're with a religious group? We'll let you pass. Please continue on, you know, Brother Spore or Sister Spore or whatever. Because we rolled our villain was a cult leader. There we go. Venom, hello! Welcome. You came right as I was putting the finishing touches on, the finishing touches here on our Ravnica campaign. But I hope you're having an awesome Saturday. I mean, I hope all of you are having an awesome Saturday. Did our exercise here, did this make sense to you? Did it seem like a series of events that could flow naturally for a story, given everything that we've discussed? Is there a question about the process of making this outline? Because, again, now that we have the outline, we could go through, I mean, we could add detail and detail and detail. And we can just overwork this thing until it's absolutely just, it's down to the minutia. But then, as a DM, that could paralyze us in thought and choice. But if we set up a series of goals like this, we can keep things better organized, right? We can keep things, we can just bear things in mind. This is generally what I want to have happen next. Let's see how we can get there from where we're at currently. In every session, you make progress towards that goal. A little bit more progress, a little bit more progress. Until you get there. So it gives you some adaptability, some flexibility. Everything we did, you can find in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And you know what? If we want to go through and take this basic information, and we would like to specify something about it for Ravnica itself. Yeah, Venom. It can be a hard balance, but if you hit that sweet spot, oh, it is wonderful. Creating adventures, we can replace or consider this when we want to go through and add more detail, right? No, we have a broad story that can take place anywhere. If we want to make it more of a Ravnica story, instead of a story that takes place on Ravnica, I mean, subtle, but I hope you get the difference. Look, here's some adventure goals. Location connections. Transport a person, an object, or information collected at the first location safely to the second. Some of these are similar, but they're having a more Ravnica flavor to them, right? Guild villains. A villain is striving for power within their guild. A villain is sending agents to infiltrate one or more guilds. The villain's agents are luring members away from another guild. Does that sound familiar to our Medusa? What if she takes the reins of power here? And what if, because we still do, what if we need to make a level 16 through 20, or I guess a 17 through 20, Ravnica story to complete the campaign and to take our characters from 1 to 20? Would the Medusa become the new villain in this instance, or would it be someone else? Could it be a PC from this story who chose to step up and be the villain? Character objectives, adventure goals. Is this all familiar? We have goals and such, right? Here's our campaign goal. Find an item that's important to the guild. Free a guild member from captivity. Find a missing guild member. All kinds of adventure hooks. You want to go on a dungeon delve? Here's dungeon delve guilds. Wilderness guilds. If you want to go for an adventure. Disaster-based guilds. Protection-based guilds. You want to have a guild versus guild story? This will help you. Like, this is a mini DMG. Oh, Brasbear, thank you very much for the follow. Run if you follow me if you want to live. It sounds like you have. Right? How can you involve the characters? Right? Once you've chosen an adventure seed, a villain, a mission, and a general hook, you get to figure out what gets the player characters involved in the adventure. So here we go. Cross purposes. Why would an Azorius work? Hey, Derek, welcome. Why would an Azorius work with a Golgari? I don't know. Let's roll a d10. 9. Catch the characters between fighting forces. And so maybe they have to be peacemakers, or maybe they don't want the violence, but they've been caught up in it. That kind of a thing. Complications. Hello. Here we go. I mean, what did we have here? We had complications. Now, we gave him an honor quandary. If you don't like that, replace it. Like, if we want to replace that honor quandary, go back, let's roll a d8 and see what a Ravnica complication would be. 2. One or more members of another guild are caught between the villain and the adventurers. That should be easy enough to insert, and it won't take a whole lot of other finagling, because everything else we've done makes sense. You want to run some guild intrigue? Guilds are vying for influence over a prominent individual who might be a player character. There we go. Allies and rivals. We were just talking, well, we talked about allies and patrons, right? This is all consideration of what was in the DMG, but it's given a unique Ravnican flair. So you can immerse yourself as the DM, and therefore you can immerse your PCs in the campaign environment. Derek says, just feel like I dropped the ball in tonight's game, and I'm really, really sleep deprived to the point where I can't go to bed now because I'm hopped up on caffeine and wired. Oh, no. Well, I mean, if you want to talk about the game, you know you're always welcome to. But I hope that you can, like, you know, get some water in your system, maybe help flush things out, and it'll get you tired for a good night's sleep. Oh, my gosh. Ooh, Derek. Derek. Sleep. It calls to you. Fluffy Sheep, it's been a tough day. Yeah, Fluffy, it sounded like you were having a little bit of a tough time too. But hey, you know, if you want to vent about it or get feedback or whatever, you know you're always welcome to talk about it. And then if we want to talk about specifically, here's the Azorius Senate. Well, if we had an Azorius villain, but here's some adventures, boom. Look at this. It's giving you maps for either a dungeon, or if you want to talk about when they go and visit a precinct or something along those lines. Azorius adventure hooks, Azorius assignments. Let's go to the Golgari, because that's really what it's all, much of it is about here. These are the Gruul. Golgari. Interesting map for the Golgari, too. So here we go, the Golgari Swarm. And the map is an Undercity mansion. So it's giving you a map, and look at these different adventures that you can run through it. Let's just roll a d10. What could we gen up if we wanted to? 9. Find and claim a treasure hidden in the mansion. Boom, nice and easy. There we go. They give us a map and a prompt to use it. Gives you an idea about the terrain, about the locale. You want a Golgari villain? Let's roll a d8. 1. Armed with a powerful magic item found among the dead in the Undercity, a Golgari shaman enacts a plan of revenge against another guild. See how easy this is to be thematic? Golgari's campaign villains. Given their affinity for death, necromancy, and decay, the Golgari make excellent villains. Because they consider life and death as equal parts of the natural cycle, they have no qualms about subjecting entire neighborhoods to poisonous gas or strangling vines to achieve their various goals. When a Golgari assassin goes on a killing spree, when a patch of their vegetative growth begins reclaiming an area that hasn't yet been abandoned, or when their fungus-bearing zombies emerge from the Undercity to haunt city streets, heroes are duty-bound to act against the threat. The Golgari possess a combination of ambition and ruthlessness that makes them extremely dangerous adversaries. The tension among the various factions of the Swarm, the Elves, the Medusas, the Crawl, and the Rising Erstwhile, adds an element of instability to the mix. But perhaps the Golgari Swarm's most dangerous quality is the widespread confidence among its members that it will survive any catastrophe that might befall the surface world. This certainty means Golgari villains will stop at nothing in an attempt to provoke such an event, triggering a virulent plague, causing explosive plant growth, or inciting the other guilds into open war, for example. So if you weren't sure, again, you don't have to have played Magic or Ravnica to get this. It's all right here, and you can make a specialized... you could do what we did, but just a lot more specialized with the help of the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Golgari... here, we talked about a side quest, you know, to go get something here. Let's roll a d6. What would it have been? 1. Find a valuable item believed lost in the Undercity. In fact, that's kind of how this whole thing started. Because the ghost is accusing one of our PCs of stealing something important. An adventure hook. 5. Several Crawl have moved into an old tenement and are making their neighbors nervous. Crawl are insectoid people. My DM has been missing for a month, maybe more. Yeah, King. I haven't seen Own Dog around, and I hope he's doing all right. Unless you're talking about someone else, but I was thinking about Own Dog when you said that. It is hard to DM properly when sleep deprived. I agree, Fluffy. The players are bickering. Oh no. My player made a brilliant play and I screwed it up because I didn't realize what just happened. Well, I mean, so just you could go back and explain the circumstances, Derek. Just say, look, I'm sorry. I was what you did was brilliant, and I'm willing to, I'm willing to go back and reconsider the actions of what occurred because it was actually so good. There's nothing wrong with missing a cue. I sure as heck do it. I mean, I'm not claiming to be like Mr. Awesome DM or anything, but I mean, I'm a human being. Oh, Diadems, did you not get to play with? Did you not get to play tonight, or when your game with the donuts are? Yeah, holidays are rough. Oh, no, I understand, Fluffy Sheep, what you're saying. Daily says, my Storm King's Thunder group informed me last week that they want to carry on after the end of the written portion of the adventure. I'm now elbow deep in writing the adventure that will take them from level 11 to 20. So many amazing ways to get them to max level using enemies and NPCs already presented in the written portion of the adventure. I was so inspired over the last 2 days, I'm already 57 pages in. When I sat down, I was only trying to get an outline created. Wow. Although, what inspired you, Daily? Like, was it that determination of your group? You know, when you all got together and like, no, we're taking this. We're gonna carry Storm King's thunder home. Okay, Own Dog is the missing person. Well, yeah, I hope that that he and all of them over there are all right. His wife was going to Nano, or whatever. Oh, to do NaNoWriMo? That could be. That could explain why he's been gone a month. I suppose if she doesn't want to be distracted with games or anything. Oh, wow. Well, I hope everyone's okay, Diadems. Whoop, I went too far. Here's a consideration, right? We had a Boros, sort of an ally in the first adventure. Now more of an antagonist or a foil. So if we were to call him a villain to our PCs, because of course we have a good guy cop who's chasing after an evil party. You know, if we want to get a little bit more into it, you know, he's more brutal. He's facing pressure at work or wherever. 2. A Boros commander starts preemptively closing Izzet foundries, Simic research chambers, and other locations considered prone to disaster. So you can use this as maybe he's been put in charge of this, so he seems like he's drastic, or that this is pressuring him into doing things that maybe he never would have done otherwise. And so he's getting a lot of work pressure. I mean, so we're talking about real life stuff, right? You know, people in hospitals or you know, have gone missing for a while, or you know, that there's sudden pressures on them because of success, or that they want to succeed, and so they're busting their butt to do so. That could very well be our stressed out Minotaur cop of the Boros, that also is a rival to our Azorius Minotaur. You wanted to try and make something special for them? They've been a great group. It sounds like it, Daily. And you know what? Isn't it nice? Once you start the process, you're like, yeah, I'm just going to make an outline. Yeah, you know, let's take them 11 to 20. I mean, how tough can it be? It just flows. It's an amazing process to go through. DDM says so far that they're okay, with a ways to go still. Well, I hope that they're getting the care that they need for what's going on out your way. Not that I'm going to pry into personal stuff, but I mean, look, when anyone needs to go to the hospital, I mean, you don't go there necessarily, you know, just for poops and ha-has. You know, you go there because things can be serious, and some more serious than others. So, you know, I hope that they recover and get well. Here's a sample Boros outpost. There's so much stuff this book is giving you, everyone. And you know what? You can use this in your own homebrew. You don't have to call it a Gruul encampment or whatever, but use this as an encounter for something else. It's all right here for you anyway. All right, so here's something. Is it related? Is it villains and such? So here's an Is it laboratory. Here's an Orzhov Basilica. Arachdos. You can delve into that. Huh. Yep, here's a nightclub. Guess you can call it the asylum if you want. Yeah, the book has a lot of... and yes, it is Ravnican because it needs to be. But it doesn't have to only be Ravnican. There's a lot of inspiration you can take away from this to put into... You can put it into Storm King's Thunder, right? You can put concepts and organizations. Instead of just having a Thieves Guild, you can just take the Rakdos Guild. You know, no other guilds, just the Rakdos, and use that as a model for your Thieves Guild. Nothing saying it can't be like that. And here's a sample adventure for you as well. Krenko's Way. And then a ton of monsters. And magic items. And other stuff that you can so easily drop into your campaign. In fact, hey, here's the Death Pact Angel. So, Derek has one of these. A nice, ooh, a CR14 creature. Not too shabby. An Archon of the Triumvirate. Diadems, you have one of these. Another CR14 creature here. Arclight Phoenix. Pop 2 of these, I think. Whew, CR12. Conclave Dryad. There's monsters we popped to that. Cacklers. There's the Orzhov Giant. Right here. All kinds of cool stuff. Whew. Sorry, I guess I'm just rambling now. This was a lot of fun to consider, to put together, and to see now. I guess we're gonna have to come back and make an epic level Ravnica campaign, right? We made our sort of heroic tier 1 to invoke 4th edition. We made our heroic tier 1, which was Lone Survivor. This one, we gotta give it a fun pun name. But this was our Paragon level adventure, and this is gonna leave off right on the doorstep of Epic, which is 17 through 20. So that means, you know, sometime in the coming new year, we'll come back to Ravnica. And we'll bring our party through a really good adventure that'll take them to level 20. It is extensive, Coffee. It very much is. Well, I'll tell you what, everyone. Let's take another break. I'm going to get up, refresh myself. And then, you know what? I'll come back. We can talk. We can go through the guide a little bit more. We can explore, like, if you have questions on particular monsters, or if you want to know some information about a guild, or, you know, let's just take a little bit of time here at the end of the evening. If there's particular questions you have about the setting, about the book, while I have it up on screen, I can just, boom, make it nice and big, and we can visit it. But let's take a restroom break, you know, refresh our snacks and drinks, and let's come back and just hang out a little bit tonight. We'll still go through Ravnica, and then we'll call it an evening. We'll find someone to raid later in a little bit here, and we'll have fun. So I'll see you in a couple minutes. All right.